I'm a cybernetic organism. Rubber tissue over a plastic endoskeleton. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining today. This is your host Nino, inviting you to an episode in which we shall explore fixing the Terminator. In this case, specifically, my daughter's little pink Piglet, which is generally a very pleasant and lovable pink robot toy that was able to make oinking sounds, move its legs, as well as snuffle around with its nose. And she very much loved it, and it should have been doing all of those things until one day it simply didn't. Now, I discovered that the batteries had quite badly corroded, and so I pulled out my multimeter in the hope of seeing whether electricity was even reaching that chip and whether the battery compartment itself was generating any perceivable power, or whether corrosion had damaged it so far that it no longer could. Well, trying these two poles of the battery compartment delivered the expectable voltage, so that signified that the battery compartment was basically okay. Nonetheless, the whole contraption was not operational. So in a next step, I fixed all of those little solders again. I re-soldered everything basically. And I must say, for one reason or the other, the thing started to much more forcefully move its snout and so on and so forth. So it is my hypothesis that maybe some of the joints, if not having broken apart fully, were still perhaps creating some sort of stronger resistance and control of the board over the rest of the pig was impeded. As to the board itself, it is having this designation, should you be curious to obtain a reserve one, should you have a similar toy. And it has actually markings of adorable level of detail. As you can see, it is having some snout or butt markings, something about mouth, motor key. So I suspect that this is perhaps a board that is not used solely in that pig, but that seems to be something more generally driving little pet animals of robotic nature. Now, taking it apart was of course a bit of a perfidious story, as it has all sorts of hidden screws, and apart from the ones that you will see, there will be up here on the hull a couple ones that are actually hidden behind such covers, and you need to remove the cover in order to take out the actual screw. Another thing which was particularly nasty was that this leg here, which is attached here, under its skin is featuring a screw which you need to unscrew. And should you damage through pulling by shear force this entire mechanism, then it will no longer work, as all of these legs are connected. Like basically, you see, the thing is actually still on. Apparently did not turn it off, but turned it on. Yeah. And a very critical thing to check is this little button here, which seems to be somehow connected to the movement of the legs. In other words, the contraption is noticing whether the legs have been moved by this thing here and then doing some things or not. So this is apparently its sensor mechanism for realizing some form of touch from the outer world. You are also having a couple of copper platters or folios actually, like here, as well as on the snout. which apparently shall aid the perception of touch in some fashion. Unfortunately, the one on the back at least was very badly oxidized, so the skin of the pig is a little bit discolored there from the copper oxidation. Now I shall reattach the motherboard here and then build together the Piglet again, and then let's hope that it shall be working again. The motherboard is now reconnected, and I think I can demonstrate its feeding mechanism. Yeah. So it has now eaten, so to say. I'm unfortunately unable to figure out how exactly to do the same thing with the legs. The collar apparently also has a specific function, so that would be this one. So it makes this weird sound, so to say, if you pull it on a string behind you and if you thereby trigger the collar button. Okay, I think I may have discovered the secret to moving it forward. So it needs to be depressing the leg button, and I may have to touch this copper thing. And the moment I do, we are seeing some show of this sort. Well, so maybe I will have to cut a hole through its rubber skin in order to better expose the copper platter. And if that reliably works, if that is the way to trigger the whole thing, then maybe I have a solution. Maybe the oxidization of this no, I can't touch it. The oxide layer over this copper platter may have actually hampered the registration of its sensors and thereby disturbed its general functioning. What would actually happen if it's not pressing and I still touch that? Nothing. So it needs to be pressing on the one hand. So the pig needs to be, sort of say, on the floor, and I'm touching it. Can I depress it perhaps with this thing and touch it? Okay, so this is not a reliable thing. And here, okay, yeah, okay, so I need to do something else, and just touching this electrode will make it do something. Now, regarding putting it together, I never completely took it apart. I left its rubber skin connected around its eyes, where it seemed to particularly resist removal, and the whole thing can be clapped asunder in this area and then simply brought back together without ever having to deal with the rubber around the eyes. Now that perfidious leg screw has been reattached, and in fact if you rotate your screwdriver onto that screw, then the whole leg assembly will be moving as it is connected internally. The pig is now halfway restored. And if I now use its sucking mechanism again, yeah, creepy as it gets, as always. Functional again, though. And now it should be working again. Yes, it really should be. So it has been restored to its former glory. Here on the back, unfortunately, you can see the stain where the copper has been in contact with the rubber and apparently has started to rot. So I might cut off that part. I might cut out that part. But I cannot decide that, as you understand. I'm merely the helpful daddy and not the actual owner of the animal. And with that, today's episode is ending. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to greet you here soon again for further adventures. If not a subscriber yet, please consider joining our friendly club. See you hopefully soon. Until we meet again, have a wonderful time. Thank you for watching. And from us here, goodbye.